There are two kinds of men walking around right now. One type, women forget his name before he even leaves the room. The other type, women lie awake at 3 in the morning scrolling through his Instagram, wondering what he's doing, terrified he'll find someone better. And here's the brutal truth that most men don't want to admit. You're probably the first type. You've been that type your entire life, and unless something changes, you're going to stay that way. But today, I'm going to show you exactly how to become the man women fear losing. The man who lives rent-free in her head. The man who makes her act differently than she's ever acted before. And the harsh part, most of you are going to hear me out, nod along, agree with everything I say, and still do nothing. Because change requires something most men don't have. The ability to make quick, decisive moves. Last week I was sitting in this little cafe, sipping a black coffee, watching people, and I noticed this couple at the table across from me. He's maybe 28, good-looking, decent clothes, clean haircut. She's gorgeous. The type of girl that makes the whole room glance when she walks in. And here's the scene. She's on her phone the entire time. He's leaning forward, trying to get her attention, asking her questions. She's giving one-word answers without even looking up. He's investing everything, she's investing nothing. I'm sitting there thinking, brother, she decided about you 6 months ago. She already checked out, but here you are still trying to convince her. And that's when it hit me. This guy is going to waste another 6 months of his life chasing someone who's already gone, begging for a little bit of validation, hoping she changes her mind before she finally leaves him for a man who knew how to walk away. That's the difference right there. One man clings and waits, another man decides and moves, and women fear losing the man who decides. Every year the gap gets wider. The divide between the men who succeed with women and the men who fail is turning into a canyon. On one side, men who have options, who women compete for, who live relationships on their terms. On the other side, men begging for scraps, waiting by the phone, getting dumped repeatedly, wondering what's wrong with them. And there's no middle ground anymore. You're either winning or you're invisible. Here's the crazy part. The difference isn't looks. It's not money. It's not even confidence. It's one simple quality, the ability to make quick decisions. That's it. That's the secret. The man who can decide in seconds what other men agonize about for months. The man who can walk away when others cling desperately. The man who acts while others analyze themselves into paralysis. That's the man women fear losing. Think about this. By the time the average guy hits his early 30s, he's had maybe 5 relationships, a few flings, some short-term situations, a couple heartbreaks, and he thinks that's normal. But while he's had 5 mediocre relationships where women left him, another man has had 50 experiences where he did the leaving. While he's learned nothing except how to get hurt, the other man has learned how to be irreplaceable. The real problem starts way earlier. Back in high school, when you saw the same 5 dudes getting all the attention while you sat invisible. When girls wanted the older guys, the athletes, the ones with status, and you were just there, you learned to hide your desires. You learned to suppress what you wanted. Because every time you wanted something and didn't get it, it hurt. So you stopped wanting. You stopped approaching. You stopped trying. And now you're older, but that same programming is still running your life. I want you to think about your last breakup. Be honest. When did you first feel her slipping away? When did you first notice the distance? When did the attraction start dying? Don't lie to yourself. It wasn't the night she said, I think we should break up. It was months before. At least 6 months. That's 180 days where you knew something was wrong. You felt her pulling back. You saw the signs and you did nothing. You hoped. You endured. You waited for her to change her mind. And in the end, she didn't. Now here's the twist that stings. If you had made the decision to walk away, the moment you felt her pulling back, one of 2 things would have happened. Either she would have come running back, realizing you weren't going to sit around waiting while she disrespected you, or she wouldn't, and you would have saved yourself 180 days of slow pain, of lost confidence, of wasted opportunities. Either way, you would have won, but you couldn't do it. You couldn't make the decision. And that's the disease most men carry. They confuse waiting with patience. They confuse endurance with loyalty, when in reality, all they're doing is avoiding the decision they know they should make. They'd rather rot slowly than rip the band-aid off. And that inability to act is the single thing keeping them average. Let's break this down even deeper. Because the contrast between the man who acts and the man who waits is night and day. Imagine 2 men start at the same point. Both meet a girl they like. Both feel her energy shift 6 months into the relationship. One notices the distance, the coldness, the short replies, the less frequent intimacy. But instead of acting, instead of addressing it, he ignores it. He tells himself it's just a phase. He hopes it gets better. And for the next 180 days, he lives in a state of quiet misery. She's half there, he's fully there, and every day she respects him less. Now take the other guy. He notices the same signs, but he makes a decision. She pulls away, he pulls out. She stops showing effort, he stops giving effort. No drama, no begging, no arguing. Just a clear choice. If you're not in, I'm out. And while the first guy wastes 6 months of his life clinging to someone who already mentally left him, the second guy just opened 6 months of opportunities. Let's put this into perspective with numbers, because sometimes that's what makes it real. 6 months is roughly 180 days. If you're single and you decide to be intentional, you could start 5 conversations a day, on dating apps, at the gym, at work, in line at Starbucks. It doesn't matter. That's 35 new conversations a week, over 100 a month, over 600 in 6 months. 600 chances to meet someone better, someone more aligned, someone who actually values you. But the man who doesn't act, the man who waits, he doesn't see any of those 600. He trades them for a ghost of a relationship. A woman who's already halfway out the door. And it doesn't stop there. After she finally leaves him, the damage is worse. His confidence is shattered. His sense of worth is gone. He spends months healing, replaying every moment in his head, wondering what he did wrong. Add another 6 months of recovery, and that's a full year wasted on something that was already dead halfway through. Meanwhile, the guy who acted, the guy who walked, he's been stacking experience. Every interaction, every conversation, every date, it all compounds. He learns faster, he gets sharper, he builds options. By the time the first guy is finally ready to get back out there, the second guy has already forgotten the girl's name. That's the brutal math of indecision. Most men don't realize this until it's too late. They think staying, hoping, enduring is safer than leaving. They tell themselves, what if I'm wrong? What if she comes back? What if I throw away something good? So they cling, even when the writing's on the wall. It's like having a cavity in your tooth and refusing to see the dentist because you're scared of the drill. You know it's only getting worse. You know ignoring it won't fix it, but pretending it's fine feels easier. Until one day the pain is unbearable, and now it's not a filling, it's a root canal. That's what waiting does to your relationships. What could have been a clean break becomes total devastation. I coached this guy once. Smart dude, successful, ran his own business. When it came to work, he was ruthless with decisions. If an employee underperformed, gone. If a product wasn't selling, cut. He wasted no time because he valued his business. But with women, he turned into the opposite. His girlfriend would disappear for days, show up with weak excuses, and he'd just accept it. He told himself it would change, that she was just going through something. He gave her 6 more months of disrespect before she finally left him. I asked him one question that broke him. If an employee treated your time the way she does, would you keep them? He laughed nervously and said, of course not. And I said, so why is your relationship worth less than your business? He couldn't answer. And that's the disease so many men carry. Kings everywhere else in their lives, slaves in their relationships. You need to understand something. The moment you tolerate disrespect, you've already lost. Not just the girl, you've lost yourself. Because what you accept becomes your standard, and what becomes your standard turns into your identity. That's why so many guys end up broken, bitter, and confused. They've programmed themselves to accept scraps, and now they don't even realize they're starving. Here's what happens when you flip the script. When you become the man who acts instead of waits. When you make decisions quickly instead of dragging them out. Suddenly you start to accumulate experience at a rate that feels almost unfair. Think about the gym. If you train 3 days a week for a year, you'll be in better shape than the guy who goes once a month. It's obvious. Same with relationships. If you're engaging, learning, moving, you build skills, confidence, understanding. You're not repeating the same heartbreak 5 times. You're stacking hundreds of unique experiences. And women feel that. The man who acts has a certain energy. He's calm, unbothered, decisive. He doesn't overthink. He doesn't beg. He doesn't stall. He knows what he wants. And if he doesn't get it, he moves on. That decisiveness is magnetic. Women respect it instantly because they know it's rare. Most men hesitate. Most men stall. Most men are terrified of making the wrong move. The man who acts doesn't have that fear, and that's why women fear losing him. Once you build that muscle of quick decisions, it spreads to every area of your life. You start making faster moves in business, in friendships, in opportunities. You stop tolerating mediocrity anywhere. And while most men waste years in dead relationships, in jobs they hate, in situations that drain them, you're living 10 lifetimes in the same span of time. That's the difference between existing and living. So ask yourself honestly, are you the man who acts or the man who waits? Because the man who waits will always be the one left behind. The man who acts, he's the one they never forget. He's the one they fear losing. You know where this all really starts. Not in your 20s, not when you get your first serious girlfriend. It starts way earlier. It starts in high school. Think back for a second. Remember those years when you saw the same 5 dudes getting all the attention? The athletes, the guys who already had cars, the older ones who looked like men while the rest of us were still boys. They were the ones girls whispered about, the ones who got invited to every party, the ones everyone wanted to be around. And you? Maybe you were invisible. Maybe you were just the friend, the one nobody saw that way. You sat on the sidelines watching it happen over and over. And every time you wanted a girl but didn't get her, it stung. You thought, what's wrong with me? You started telling yourself a story. Wanting hurts, approaching hurts. Putting yourself out there only leads to pain. So you started hiding your desires. You stopped trying. You convinced yourself it was safer to keep your head down, focus on school, play video games, hang with the guys. That way you didn't have to face rejection. That's where the seed of indecision got planted. Fast forward a few years. You're in your 20s now. You've grown up, maybe even leveled up in looks, style, confidence. But that old programming is still there. Every time you feel a girl pulling away, your first instinct isn't to walk, it's to wait, to hope, to do nothing, because that's what you trained yourself to do when you were younger. And here's the brutal truth, most men never unlearn it. They keep carrying the same high school mindset into their adult lives. They still think they're that invisible kid grateful for any attention they can get, terrified to lose it. I want you to really think about your last relationship, the one that ended with her leaving you. Be honest with yourself. When did you first feel the shift? When did she stop being as affectionate? When did the arguments start creeping in? When did you feel her pulling away? I'll tell you when. It wasn't the day she dumped you. It was months before. 6 months, 180 days of you knowing deep down it was slipping. And still you did nothing. You couldn't make the decision to leave first. You couldn't confront it directly. You just waited, like that high school kid waiting for something to magically change. And here's the part that hurts even more. If you had walked away at the first sign of her pulling back, 2 things could have happened. Either she would have panicked, realizing you weren't a man she could take for granted, and she'd have come running back. Or she wouldn't have, and you'd have saved yourself 6 months of slow torture. But either way, you would have won. Instead, you stayed. You endured. You let your self-worth bleed out a little more each day, until the breakup finally shattered you. Do you see the pattern? It's not that you're unlucky. It's not that all women are the same. It's that you keep repeating the same cycle of indecision that you learned as a kid. You let fear of loss control you. You let comfort keep you chained to situations that don't serve you. And every time you do, you train yourself to accept less than you deserve. Let me give you an analogy that makes this crystal clear. Imagine a cavity in your tooth. At first it's small, just a little pain when you drink something cold. You know it's there. You know you should go to the dentist, but you don't. You ignore it, tell yourself it'll go away. 6 months later, it's worse. Now it hurts all the time. You still don't go. You finally show up at the dentist, and now what could have been fixed with a simple filling requires a root canal. That's exactly what you're doing in your relationships. What could have been a clean break turns into a full-blown disaster because you refuse to act when you should have. And here's the truth, nobody tells you. Every day you stay in a relationship where you're not valued, you're programming yourself to believe that's what you deserve. Every morning you wake up next to someone who doesn't respect you, you're teaching yourself that scraps are enough. You're making yourself weaker. You're making yourself less attractive. You're shrinking instead of growing. I worked with a guy once who built a multi-million-dollar company. Ruthless in business, fired employees without hesitation, cut off bad deals in seconds. But in his relationship, a completely different man. His girlfriend would vanish for days, come back with flimsy excuses, and he'd just accept it. I asked him straight up, if one of your employees treated you like that, would you keep them? He laughed and said, of course not. And I told him, so why is your love life worth less than your business? He had no answer. That's the disease, bro. Men who are killers in every area of their lives except relationships, because they never learn to act when it matters most. Now picture what happens when you finally break that cycle, when you start making quick decisions, when you start listening to your gut and acting on it immediately. Suddenly you're not wasting 6 months in dead relationships. You're not bleeding self-worth every day. You're stacking experiences. You're learning faster than the average man could even imagine. And every experience adds to your power. You're not repeating the same breakup 5 times. You're leveling up with every interaction. The key to becoming the man women fear losing isn't some magic line. It's not 6-pack abs. It's not a fat bank account. It's learning to make decisions fast and clean, to stop tolerating disrespect the moment it shows up, to stop waiting for things to magically get better, to cut things off before they rot. That's what separates the men women forget from the men they never get over. Here's the part that almost nobody talks about, man. It's not just you. It's not just your habits. The entire system is designed to keep you weak in relationships. Think about the advice you've been fed your whole life. Teachers, parents, even friends, all saying the same thing. Be patient, give her time, relationships take work, don't be so quick to walk away. They make you believe that tolerating bad behavior is some kind of noble sacrifice, that being a pushover is the same thing as being loving. And the result? Millions of men sitting in relationships that are already dead, convincing themselves they're doing the right thing by staying. You want to know why? Because society is terrified of men who make quick decisions. Think about it. A man who walks away the second he feels disrespected is a man who can't be controlled. He's a man who can't be manipulated with shame or guilt. He doesn't tolerate mediocrity, and that makes everyone else uncomfortable. When you live by that standard, you shine a spotlight on everyone else's weakness. That's why they'll call you selfish, a player, emotionally unavailable. It's projection. They want you down at their level, stuck in the same misery they're stuck in, so they don't have to feel bad about their own choices. I had a friend once. Good-looking guy, successful, owned a few properties. He started dating this woman who had red flags all over her. Constant male friends, party girl past, attention-seeking behavior on social media. I told him straight up, run. He brushed it off, said I was being judgmental. 3 years later, she cheated on him with his business partner. He lost his girl and half his income. And when I asked him why he stayed, he told me the same thing I've heard 100 times. Everyone told me relationships take work. Everyone said to give her a chance. That advice cost him everything. Here's the brutal truth. Society doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about conformity. It wants you married young, locked into a mortgage, grinding at a job you hate, tolerating disrespect because that's what keeps the system running smoothly. You miserable but compliant. That's their goal. The moment you decide, I'm not accepting less than I deserve, you become unpredictable, and unpredictable men can't be controlled. Think about the way people react when you raise your standards. You say, I don't tolerate women who disrespect my time. Suddenly, everyone has something to say. Your friends tell you you're too picky. Women you reject say you're damaged. Even your family might push you, saying nobody's perfect, you need to compromise. It's all noise, bro. They don't want you free, they want you chained, just like them. But here's what happens when you start making quick decisions anyway. When you stop listening to the noise and start trusting yourself, you become magnetic. Women feel it instantly. They sense that you're not desperate, that you won't beg, that you have options. They realize you're not like the average guy who will tolerate anything just to keep them around. And suddenly they change. The same woman who would have flaked on you now shows up early. The same woman who would have kept you waiting on a reply now texts first. The same woman who would have taken you for granted now worries about losing you. It's not magic, it's psychology. Women respect men they can't control. They crave men who walk away. They're drawn to men who live by their own rules, not society's rules. The man who refuses to chase, refuses to beg, refuses to wait around, that's the man she tells her friends about. That's the man she dreams about losing. I've seen this transformation with my own eyes, dozens of times. A guy comes to me broken, telling me about the girlfriend who disrespected him, the breakup that destroyed him. 6 months later, after learning to make quick decisions, he's juggling options, dating women he never thought were possible for him. A year later, that same ex is in his DMs begging for another chance. But here's the kicker. By then, he doesn't even want her. He can't remember why he ever put up with her disrespect. Because once you raise your standards, once you live as the man who acts instead of waits, you can never go back. But you need to understand, it's not just about women. This ability bleeds into everything else. Once you learn to walk away from disrespect in relationships, you start walking away from jobs that underpay you, from friends who drain you, from situations that don't serve you. You start living life on your terms. And that scares the hell out of people who settled, because now you're proof that they could have chosen differently, and that realization burns them. Here's the paradox though. The more willing you are to walk away, the less you actually have to, because people feel it. They know you won't tolerate nonsense. They know you have options, and because of that, they give you their best. They treat you with respect. They fear losing you. That's true in relationships, in business, in life, and yet most of you won't do it. You'll hear all this, nod your head, maybe even feel fired up for a day or two. But when it's your turn to act, when it's your turn to walk away, you'll freeze, you'll make excuses. But she's different. But we have history. But I really like her. That's the trap. Those are the chains society put on you when you were 15, and unless you break them, you'll carry them until you're 50. The man who women fear losing isn't superhuman. He's not a genius. He's not even necessarily the best-looking guy in the room. He's just decisive. He trusts himself. He chooses self-respect over comfort. He makes quick calls where other men hesitate. And because of that, he lives a life that most men can only dream about. Let me paint you two pictures. Because in the end, it all comes down to a choice. And not making a choice is still a choice. Picture 1. You do nothing. You keep watching videos like this, nodding along, maybe even saving them for later. You keep living the same way you've been living, hesitant, passive, waiting for something to change without you actually changing. Fast forward 5 years, you've had maybe 2 more relationships. Both ended the exact same way as the last. She pulled away. You noticed. You waited. She left. You're older now, a little more bitter, a little less confident. Your standards have dropped because you're just tired of being alone. You're dating someone you're not even really attracted to, but you tell yourself, at least she's here. And every once in a while you see a man who has options, who's respected, who's valued, and you wonder, what does he have that I don't? You blame genetics, money, luck, anything except the truth, that he made decisions while you made excuses. Picture 2. Today you draw a line. Today you decide you'll never tolerate disrespect again, that you'll never wait around for someone who doesn't value you, that you'll never waste another 6 months of your life clinging to something that's already dead. The first year is hard. You're alone more than you'd like. You get rejected more than you're used to. But every rejection teaches you something. Every decision makes you sharper. Every day you live by your standards, your self-worth grows. Year 2, women start treating you differently. They can feel it, that energy that says, I don't need you, I choose you. Year 3, you have more options than you can handle. You're living with abundance instead of scarcity. Year 4, you meet someone exceptional, and she treats you like a king because she knows you won't tolerate less. Year 5, you look back at the old you, the version who waited, who begged, who settled, and you can't even recognize him. That's the man women fear losing. That's the man who lives on his terms. That's the man you could become if you just decide. And that's the paradox, isn't it? The moment you stop needing them is the moment they start needing you. The moment you're willing to walk away is the moment they'll do anything to make you stay. The moment you make quick decisions is the moment you become magnetic. But here's the reality. Most of you watching this will never do it. You'll nod, you'll agree, you'll maybe even feel motivated for an hour. But when it's time to act, when she flakes, when she pulls back, when she disrespects you, you'll freeze, you'll make excuses. But she's different, but we have history, but I don't want to start over. And you'll stay stuck because comfort is easier than courage. And 5 years from now, you'll be in the same place. Just older, just more bitter, just more invisible. I've seen it 100 times. Guys come to me after their 5th breakup, their 2nd divorce, their 10th heartbreak. They want a magic pill, some secret line, some trick to make women fall in love and never leave. But when I tell them the truth, that it all comes down to making quick, decisive choices, they look disappointed, because the truth isn't sexy. The truth isn't easy. The truth requires courage, and courage is rare. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel disrespected, dismissed, devalued, whether it's a woman you're dating, a girl you're talking to, or someone you're chasing, make the decision instantly. Walk away. No explanation, no long conversation, no second chances. Just gone. Delete her number, block her socials, move on. Do it once, and you'll feel a rush you've never felt before. That's your power coming back to you. Do it twice, and you'll start to wonder why you ever tolerated less. Do it 3 times, and you'll never go back to the old you again. Because here's the truth. Every quick decision compounds. Every time you act instead of wait, you build self-respect. Every time you choose yourself over someone else's breadcrumbs, you raise your value. And soon you'll realize that the man you used to be, the one who begged, who settled, who hoped, doesn't even exist anymore. You killed him, you buried him, and in his place, a new man was born. That's the man women fear losing. Not because he's rich, not because he's jacked, not because he has perfect genetics, but because he knows his worth, because he lives by his standards, because he acts while everyone else hesitates. So ask yourself right now, which man do you want to be? The one who wastes another year waiting for something that will never change? Or the one who decides today, right now, that his time is too valuable to waste, his respect too precious to give away, his standards too high to lower? The clock is ticking, bro. Every day you waste is a day you don't get back. Every second you hesitate is a second another man is acting. And every moment you tolerate disrespect, you lose a little piece of yourself. Stop bleeding, stop waiting, stop hoping, make the damn decision. Walk away from what doesn't serve you. Step into the man you were meant to be. Because here's the brutal truth. When you finally learn to walk away, you'll never have to chase again.